northern Georgia, we're in a very humid area, we can have problems. So let's talk a little bit about some things you might run into. Well, we were just talking in the back of the room, but yeah, weeds. I swear that's probably my worst problem. No matter how you deal with it, even the raised beds, eventually the weeds are going to be there. The seeds are just being either disseminated through the wind, birds, or they're already in the soil to start with. So my rule is to try to attack them young and keep them out rather than get them out when they mature. Much harder. If you ever try to, even run mechanical equipment, they're tough to get out when when they've got well rooted in there. So a number of ways we can do that. Certainly mulch is one of the more organic and very reliable ways to hold off weeds. What we do, and I don't always have time for this, but when I had a smaller garden, we used to take sheets of newspaper back and get the Sunday paper and lay about 3 layers thick all around the squash plants and tomatoes, peppers, pretty much everything. And then put organic mulch on top of that, be it composted wood chips, pine straw, wheat straw. Okay, and it did a very good blanket of kind of held in moisture a little bit, but it also did a good job of protecting the weeds. There are a number of different ways you can do it. Mechanically, and this is the garden at Griffin, I'm just running the tiller through the corn to knock out the weeds a little bit. I think you can tell we've mended that soil a couple of times. I'm not sure I'm ready to play. I'm sort of sinking in as I go. We're just lightly tilling it. Be careful not to hit the roots. You can tell I'm leaving a couple of inches on each side of the corn. Then sadly, that corn's getting ready for its little second application of fertilizer. You're going to have the initial, and then it's going to get that second pop. So it's real close to it at that stage. Okay, so you see some type of a barrier. There's a couple ways to do this. This is garden mats, which are really thick material. If you go online, you can find these. They're not the cheapest things, but they're kind of nice because they have pre-drilled holes in them. And there's different configurations. If you were going to plant squash, which is spaced widely, you can get them with holes about this big every couple of 3 feet. They have them, for smaller. We actually planted okra in there. You can kind of go here. When we planted okra, we found, you're still going to get some weeds in there, and obviously that's too dense of a planting of okra, but we were just trialing the material. You'll get some weeds growing up out of the holes. Okay, the nice thing about the garden mats, I've had them now, we got them from a trial, we've had them for 8 years and they're still going pretty strong. They're made out of the same material, I think, as what they use some of that, I call it geotextile stuff that they use to control erosion on the side of the road. You've probably seen it in black stuff. It's kind of a mesh, kind of intertwined, and it is permeable, so you can get water through it and stuff, but it's very durable. So that's one way. I've done a number of different things. I actually have a plastic layer at the farm. I'm familiar with that. It lays what's called a emboss, what's the word? It lays a plastic across a bed behind a wheel on a tractor, and so it lays an entire row, and then it throws soil up on the edges to hold it down. So we have planted vegetables that way a number of times. The only thing is nothing penetrates it, so you have to have drip irrigation underneath. So that's probably not something you're going to do. However, what you might possibly consider is just using some of the landscape fabric that they sell, even at the box stores. A number of times we've done raised beds, and we just take that weed block stuff and lay it over the beds and just staple down to the wood sides of the beds. Cut a slit and drop our tomatoes or peppers in. We've had really good luck doing that. So it's just there's a number of ways to do it. Of course, when all else fails, you can use chemicals. Depending on what you're growing, there are some pre-emergent herbicides that will help with grass weeds. One of the more common ones I see in the stores, and I think they've actually taken away the real effective one. It was called Preem, and it had trichlorolan in it, which is like a Treclan. But now I noticed they're calling it organic weed control. And if you look at the label, and you got to learn to start reading the labels as master gardeners, it's called organic weed control, and the active ingredient is actually corn gluten. Okay, and so corn gluten, and we tried and tested it, and I'll be right up front, it's not very effective at all. If we ever had good luck with it, we have not. So, but you can get Treclan. There's a number of post-emergence, meaning the weeds are already up to spray. We won't get into that, but the county agents have a book where they can kind of recommend stuff. So there are chemical ways to control weeds. We're kind of on our farm pretty organic. Okay, so it's important to rotate crops, not to have the same family of crops in the same location each year. So you might not realize that we got some brothers and sisters here, eggplants related to tomato, related to pepper, and even related to the Irish potato. So potato and tomato are all in the same family. What does that mean? So each year, you know, if I'm planting tomatoes here, I don't want to come back and say, I'm going to rotate, so I'm going to put peppers there this year. No, 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 it's the same family. Why is that important to rotate? Pretty much the soil is the key, yeah. Granted, you're not going to stop a flying insect. Say a white fly found your tomatoes last year there. If you put the tomatoes here, I don't think you're going to trick them for too long. They're going to eventually fly 32 feet over to that tomato. But soil-borne diseases like Bacillium, nematodes, and things like that are very stationalized in the soil. If you put a different family in that's no longer a host of that disease, you can starve it out. Does that make sense? So the further you can rotate, the better. But I always get the question, well, what if I only have like a 10-foot by 10-foot garden? Well, even if you can rotate 3 or 4 feet, you may get some advantage. Okay? So the key, don't plant the same family of vegetables. How long do you have to rotate for is usually a question I get. I say the minimum would be, you know, at least 1 year in between. I like to see 2-year rotation. Keep that same family out of there for 2 years. On the 3rd year, you can bring it back in. You've got to work. If you're in raised beds, obviously it'd be simple as, you know, moving the family to another raised bed and that. Okay, you know, staggering the planting times can kind of help for a number of reasons. Obviously, if you want to have fresh vegetables all summer long, you know, planting a succession of corn, of squash, anything. Every couple of weeks, put a new planting in. That'll give you a nice fresh crop. It may also help you to kind of maybe live through an invasion, such as, say, Japanese beetles coming into the garden, and they're going to attack a certain maturity stage. You've got some young crop, they're not on those yet, and they die out before it gets there. So I like to have fresh stuff coming in all the time. I had a question I was answering this morning before I left to come here. The lady was asking, said, just moved to Georgia, and noticed she was having these nasty little things in her squash plants every year. That's a problem. You're familiar with growing summer squash, squash vine borer, tremendous problem that tunnels its way. Well, actually, it's an adult moth lands on there, drops an egg in, and then that little larva tunnels through. I was telling her how there's really no good controls, blah, 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 blah. I said the way we get away from it in the farm, don't really get away from it, is we just can't, we keep planting successions of squash. They tend to attack a little bit more mature squash. And so when we see that they're in there, we just use that as a trap crop and remove them, get them out of there, destroy them, and we have a fresh crop coming in. That's the way we do it. Okay, so have plenty of room around your plants if you can, if you've got space. Ventilation is a key for good air, particularly when it comes to tomatoes. Tomatoes are probably one of the most problematic vegetables out there. I mean, they're probably the most popular, but they're also the thing that can pick up the most problems, be it disease or insects. So not only do I like to have, and I don't particularly like these cages, I use really strong cages. I use either reinforcement wire that they use for concrete, or I use hog wire, which is kind of a heavy gauge wire. You can buy it. If you got a Tractor Supply anywhere nearby, they'll know what you're talking about. Get horse or hog wire. It's got big holes in it where you can put your hand through, so you don't want to, have a cage with a hole that big and you can't reach in to get a tomato or a pepper. So you want the big, you want it wide. I go at least 3 feet minimum in diameter. I want that plant to spread out and not be squished up, okay? So do that. The other thing is, if you have time, prune your tomatoes, particularly tomatoes. Okay, what do I mean by that? Come in there, you'll see lots of limbs if you look carefully that will be bearing limbs, which means they're going to have a bloom on them, and there'll be at least twice as many that do nothing other than provide foliage. They are doing something. They're feeding the plant, but you don't need that many. So start pruning them off the bottom, kind of prune them up a little bit to make them a little bit more tree form, and then start pruning or pinching out the non-productive stems, the suckers, if you will. What's that going to do? It's going to put more energy back into the fruit that is forming up, but it, more importantly, it's going to let more air flow through there. Less chance of disease with that. Okay, so it's kind of a little organic-y thing. It's a little bit high maintenance. I mean, once you prune it, you probably can go a couple of weeks before you have to go back there and re-trim again. But it is one way to kind of help with the disease issue. Harvest on time. I remember when we get farmers market and you say like, this Amelia Smith grew 75 pounds of zucchini or something. I'm like, wonderful. She just didn't get to her garden in time to harvest it, I guess. Like now you cut it in half and we're seed behind it on Lake Westport, or not too edible when they get big. Actually, one that size, believe it or not, every now and then we sell a few of those. because people, my wife does it too, chop them up like zucchini bread. Have you ever done that? Not bad for that. But beyond that size, they get to be a little bit woody. Harvesting on time has three major advantages. So in most cases, we want to try to pick the immature vegetable from the plant. Okay, immature. We're not going to let it get to full maturity. I mean, what is the goal of that plant? Reproduce, put out a baby, and leave it on there as long as it can to produce what? Viable seed, okay? In order to do that, it has to leave that on there for a while. We want to keep plucking them off meticulously to trick that plant into thinking, oh, we just aborted everybody, we better put more kinfolk out again. And so it repollinates, and there come more babies, and the babies we just happen to like to eat, okay? In a sense. So in order to keep a plant from, we use the term terminate. Terminating means it's really done, it's been pollinated, it's done its job, it's brought that vegetable to fruition, to maturity, and it's done. That's termination. How will that happen if you don't pick those vegetables? Okay? Go out okra, leave it on there for, you know, it gets to be an ornament kind of, and leave that for about 2-3 weeks, it'll just shut down. It's done its job. That plant will just kind of sit that side of it. Okay, so keep picking it if you want to keep harvesting. If you're trying to harvest it, don't pick it. Why else do we do that? Okay, so the flavor's better when we're eating the immature versus we kidded about the big zucchini bombs, okay? Not that good with it. So flavor, okay? And the real key component too is, besides, you know, continuing harvest, is disease and insect control. As these things start to get older, they begin to senesce, and that's a fancy word for to begin to break down. So you and I can't smell it. I mean, I know if you've ever been in a grocery store where they didn't take care of the produce, it's got a real pungent odor, or maybe you've saw decaying produce somewhere. Well, before you can ever smell that smell, there's insects out there, and I call them the insects of the buzzard world, that are hovering around. And these are the guys you don't want in there. They can detect that fruit's becoming mature, and they'll beam in on it, okay? So that's when all of a sudden you're going to start getting more of your squash bugs and pickle worms and everything else. Not that you can't get them on the young stuff, but they're going to be more attracted to the old stuff. Same things with disease. Disease is going to want to try to come onto the weakened vegetable that's starting to go downhill a little bit. So let's pull them out so that we keep them continuing to produce, that we get the most tender, tasty vegetable, and also we kind of prevent disease and insects. All right, I'm going to quickly go through like the type of vegetables. I'll make some pointers or some difficulties or some successes. Depending on how much time, I also have a troubleshooting thing I was going to go through with you. It's another powerful one. You hear the term warm season, cool season. Warm season simply means these are things that are going to be grown when it's warm temperature and they thrive in the warm temps. We think of very traditional things. I call it the southern garden, corn, okra, tomatoes, peppers. Okay, those are warm season plants. Okay. Oddly, you know, we sort of get started when it's kind of cool. We're, you know, getting our transplants ready in maybe March, not putting them out, but getting them ready. By the time they hit the soil, remember we said soil temperature about what? 55, somewhere in that range, right? But, you know, still a little cool. However, we're going to try to keep those plants going during the summer months, right? So green beans is almost kind of a traditional, not traditional, transitional plant. You can slip green beans in the soil probably closer to between 55 and 60 degrees. It doesn't really mind, doesn't like cold, and it doesn't like it blazing hot in August. So most people's green beans start to wither out in the summer. But you can get them in a little bit early. Green beans are easy to grow. It's one that I mentioned that you might want to pre-soak water. If you're going to just plant them by hand, it'll speed them up a little bit. Okay? Many different kinds out there. I think the real key on green beans is plant as many as you think you can harvest. Because we plant, like I say, 275-foot rows of those, and there's a deal. There's pole beans, there's runners, we call half runners, and there's bush beans. We typically plant the bush beans because we just don't want to take the time to put that many poles up. It's whatever you like. Okay? There's many different varieties out there. I will say this, don't worry too much about the varieties. If it's a vegetable and you grow in Georgia, I probably wrote a publication on it. So if you go to UGA publications, right, put in green beans, I wrote a publication on it, and I'll mention all the varieties that I like to grow and have grown. I won't mention any that I haven't grown. So we in there. All right. Easy to grow. Okay, cucumbers. I love garden cucumbers. You know, there's some things that you buy at the store and you grow it at home and you can't tell a tremendous difference. Cucumbers is one of those. on that pay automatically, whether it's fresh grown or came out of the store. Okay, big difference. So they're usually broken down into two types, two distinctions. It's either going to be a pickling variety or a fresh eating. People get confused and they don't need to really get kind of hung up on that because you could use either one for either purpose, to be quite honest with you. God bless you. I can't believe y'all are allergic to it. There's been a lot of sneezing going on here. So ready for me to go. But at the end of the day, pick a variety that you think you would like. Just like in the green beans and everything else, when you see the catalogs, they're going to say, you know, cucumber grows to unreal lengths of 13, 14 inches. Well, that's great. You'll probably do that or more. We always want to harvest them younger than that. So pick your cucumbers before they start to get that yellowish color. Okay, get them off young. Couple of keys. A lot of people complain about cucumbers taste bitter. What's the deal with that? Okay, 99% of the time that's going to be associated with water problems. As soon as those cucumbers, not to say germinate, pollinate, and you see a little baby cucurbita in there going, and just like it's part of the cucurbita, you can tell the difference in the blooms. Okay, just like in squash, you're going to have a female bloom and you're going to have many male blooms. The female is going to form up a little squash, a little cucumber. So as that cucumber starts to get about that big, and it's one of the little baby gherkins or whatever, you really need to put the water to it. Okay, I'm not saying you're going to bring in the flood of Noah, but keep it moist most of the time because it's real important. That cucumber is going to form up probably within a matter of days and be ready to harvest. Okay, you want to have it nice and full of water. If it goes dry during any period during that time, the cell walls inside that cucumber will begin to senesce or break down, and that's where you get the bitter taste. You've got a great looking cucumber, something tasty, you bite into it, oh my gosh, the thing's bitter. It's because it was lacking water in a very critical period of time. It basically was dying off on you, just can't see it. Does that make sense? Moisture, moisture, moisture right up to the time you pluck it off of it. Okay? Sometimes pickle worms, you'll notice there's little holes in your cucumber. Pickle worms just don't attack cucumbers, they attack a lot of things. But that's something you have to watch out for. Organically, you can control them with Bacillus BT, it's called Bacillus thuringiensis. And then stay after the harvest. You know, you plant a couple beds of cucumbers and you're thinking innocent little babies pop up, and Bob said to thin them out. And all of a sudden, you know, that little bed is now half the size of this room because they just spread out. So you need to have plenty of room for them, and they're kind of tricky to harvest. And I'll tell you a couple of tips I do. But you know, you're trying to walk through there and not step on the vines, and you're trying to lift them up and find the cucumbers. And if you've never grown them before, I mean, it can be a challenge. If you do it right, you're going to have a lot of cucumbers. It's going to be like the zucchini thing where you can only give some money away, okay, or make a lot of pickles. So only plant what you think you can eat. One of the ways I make it simple is I always grow mine vertically. So we put in these really strong fence posts. I mean, you could, if you had, you know, a little wood post or a little metal, you know, post, put it in, and then put up again, same stuff used on the tomato cages, some of that hog wire, and grow those cucumbers up. Once it starts to spread out a little bit, it just takes you putting one or two little branches into that fence, and it'll get the picture, and it'll learn, and it'll start growing up. So then when we go to harvest, it's much easier. It's more like milking a cow. You're pulling them off the thing like this versus reaching down there to find them. Okay? This is my thought. If you're really limited in space, consider growing one like bush cucumber or bush pickle. It's a more compact variety, good for like container.
I know it's a dumb question. I don't
garden.
I'd love to, but I don't have enough sun. But how do you know when it's hit that point that you need to pull? I mean, just by size or?
When you know how to harvest?
When to harvest, yeah.
On the cucumbers, it's a little bit about the variety and how to do it or how each one's supposed to get. But normally you will see it filled out nicely and you'll have that dull color to it. The spines on the cucumber will be very pronounced. You're going to talk about it almost kind of focused. And if you leave it on too long, you'll start to see where they're going to almost break away from the vine. It's too long. So based on our experience, for some experience, but and there's nothing wrong with harvesting it way young. So you know you can let a couple grow big, a couple small, and see where you can tolerate it. And the longer you leave them, the more seed you'll get. Not quite as flavorful, but the thing is, and I hate to say it, but on cucumbers, it's fast. So the difference between saying, well, it's not quite big enough, it's that big. And then you go away on a master barter convention and come back 2 days later, that same cucumber now. So it's very quick, very quick. So your decision is only going to be within 2 days. All right. Just some varieties I threw up there, but again, I have those on the publications. Okay, eggplants, anybody ever grown eggplant? Yeah. You know, it's kind of a weird thing. We grow it for the market, and then sometimes people want eggplants, sometimes they're like, you couldn't give them away. You literally can't get them away, we get so many. Eggplant's kind of fun to grow. It's a really cool ornamental looking plant. I've seen a lot of people grow them in hanging baskets, and they look really attractive because they've got nice kind of floppy foliage. Certainly flea beetles are a really #1 pest of eggplants. They put little holes. You're going to have to spray some type of pyrethrin or light insecticide to control them. Eggplant is in the what family?
Solanaceous.
Solanaceous, very good. Same as the tomatoes, and so we don't want to rotate it anywhere that is. Several different varieties out there. This is the traditional one, probably one called Black Beauty. They also have like some elongated Italian eggplants that we grow sometimes. They've got white eggplants from whence it gets its name. That originally came, I think, from Europe as a little small white vegetable that looked like a pig itself. So kind of cool. Yep. All right, okra. Who's grown okra? Very good. My first experience with okra was many, many moons ago. We grew a big, I don't know, probably like about 4 or 5 long rows of it. It was a hot summer day, and I hadn't grown up before, and I went through there with no shirt on. I was a young guy at the time. Just went through your harvest and that stuff. By the time I got to the end of the row, that stuff had got me thinking I got in the fire ant, so it just ate me up. I had to jump in the pond and detoxitize myself. But okra is kind of a cool plant. Love it or hate it. We love it now. My wife puts up okra. She blanches it, saves it in the freezer, but it's always best fresh, either fried or she can do like a stir fry thing with it. At the end of the day, it's an amazing plant. Okay, it's in the hibiscus family, which is kind of the same family as cotton. I don't have to remember that French test or anything. It takes forever for it to produce. So it likes really warm soils. So when I told you 65 to 70, I'd wait till it got to be about 75-degree soil before I put the okra seed in. You can direct seed it. And then when it grows, it's going to sort of sit there at about a 1-foot height for a little while. Okay, and it's going to sit there, sit there, sit there. When it starts to get so nasty that you don't want to be in the garden anymore, it's going to take off because it loves hot, nasty, humid weather. Okay, and all of a sudden it starts to go and look, and you don't have to fertilize it much. I fertilize it at planting time. When it's about that tall, I hit it again. That's the last time I fertilize my okra. Why? Because I don't want it to be 12 foot tall and have to harvest it, because everything it produces is pretty much at the top. Okay, so as it's growing, eventually you're going to see these beautiful hibiscus, looks like roses sharing blooms pop out, and lo and behold, you're looking at that big bloom, and within about 1 day, that'll turn into a little pod, and within 2 days, you'll have okra on there. And I always believe there's like elves coming that time, gluing them things on, because if you grow an okra, how often do you harvest it? Yeah. Every single day, yeah. Because, like the cucumbers, when that okra pod gets about that big, that's to be prime harvest. If you wait an extra day, it's that big. And by the next day, it's too big. It gets woody. I mean, and we lose a lot of okra, and I can't keep up with all the okra we have. It takes, just an hour or more to harvest okra in our garden. So, I'm clipping. And one thing I like to use a really nice, sharp hand clippers, and that's what I harvest them with. My father-in-law would use the knife, I use the hand clippers. Okay? So harvest them young. If you've got old pods on there, harvest those as well. You can get rid of them, use them for ornamental type, whatever, but don't leave pods on there at all. So that's going to attract bugs. It's also going to cause it to terminate. Okay. You see a little stink bug right there. They're a real problem on the okra.
Do you not delay it or try to?
Precondition seed?
No, I have good germination, just going right straight seed. Yeah, and I plant all different kinds. But I usually want to go back with any Oakley or Clemson spineless. And I don't know why they call it Clemson spineless, because anywhere you touch on that plant, it'll make you itch pretty much. All kinds of spines on it. No, I use that push planter, because you plant a lot of it. I put it in there and I just roll down the road with it. And usually that push planter usually plants it a little thick. So when I get a moment, I'm going through there, I usually eliminate every other one, something like that. I kind of want my okra spaced like that. Kind of like maybe about 12 inches apart. What I do though is I'm harvesting my okra, going down the road, and I have that clippers. You'll notice some of the lower leaves will begin to fizzle out. I just clip them as I go and kind of make it almost a true form. I don't like harvesting okra, it's tiring. All right, peppers. to me, one of the easiest vegetables in the world to grow. It is in the solanaceous family, but I don't have very few problems. It's nothing like a tomato, even though they're the same family. That Totally Tomatoes catalog I mentioned, they'll have every assortment of pepper you ever dreamed of, from chocolate to striped to whatever you can dream of. Usually peppers are broken down by their pungency or their hotness, okay? And incidentally, you probably know this, but it's not really the flesh that gives it the flavor, so to speak, it's the seeds inside, the caspine, okay? So, and caspine is actually used in several drugs. I think we treat some heart stuff and whatever. It'll light you up, get enough of it. So there's usually hot peppers, there's the sweet peppers and the bells and the in-betweens. We've got a lot of bell peppers, and you think of that being the big green one. It doesn't have to be. We grow one called Carmen, which happens to be my wife's name, and it's a kind of a horn shape. It's an Italian bell pepper. It's really tasty. You might want to try that one. And it's very easy to grow. Carmen, just like the name C-A-R in the end. If you plant banana peppers or anything like that, it doesn't take many of them because they're just very prolific. They put out tons of them. So, if you got 10 banana plants here and there, that's going to keep you in banana land for a long time. We can't sell the ones we grow. And you can get an orange and so forth. And that's another thing. A lot of people believe the color is going to dictate what their flavor is and how hot they are. A lot of people, I mean, not you guys, but they think, it's a red pepper, it's going to be hotter. It's usually completely the opposite. The longer you leave the pepper on the plant, most green varieties are going to turn to red anyway. And they actually get sweeter. So the longer you leave it on there, the more sweet it will be, okay? The quicker you take it off, the more pungent it will be, in most cases. The real small ones, like the habaneros, there's one called marbles, we've planted before. It's good for like salsa. Not too many people just eat that raw. They're challenged to do so. But they're kind of fun. There's all different kinds out there. Just make sure, just like the tomatoes, they can get blossom end rot, so they need calcium and moisture pretty consistently. So much I can tell you about that. All right, summer squash, we talked about this a little bit earlier. I've tried, gosh, I don't know, maybe 75 different varieties. And what I can tell you is this, because there's summer crooked neck, summer straight neck, there's zucchini, which, the green and the yellow. Incidentally, they're really the same thing. Most people don't realize that, but the zucchini and the yellow squash are exactly the same thing, just different colors. If I blindfold you and give you a bite of yellow squash and a bite of zucchini, you think you could, you probably couldn't tell me which was which. That being said, if I put about 4 different varieties of yellow squash in and trialed you and said, which one tastes, that's my opinion. They don't taste like a whole lot of anything until you season them up. So I take them, my favorite way to cook them, I take those babies and slit them right like that and make little paddles, and then I put like a little teriyaki on it and I grill it. So I grill my squash. Of course, fried's always good. My wife doesn't let me fry too much, but fried's good. And she makes stir fry, just basically raw in the pan and do it that way. Okay, a couple of quick things. There's many different kinds out there, shapes, sizes. One time someone kept asking us for starship squash. Starship, I don't know what they call that. I finally figured out they were talking about patty pans. So you can get squash that, shaped like a little scallop patty pan. We've grown some called 8-ball before that are like an older kid. You kind of know that 8-ball is something you can play with. I don't know what it is. It's a little black thing, and it's a black looking squash. It's pretty cool. So they've got, squash is very unstable genetically. Not to scare you, that doesn't really mean it's going to hurt you. But what it means is if you try to save the seed from it, you'll get back something completely different because they cross-pollinate. So what you plant is what you'll get unless you're saving seed. And with that in mind, they have tons of different varieties coming out every year. So my recommendation is just find a summer squash, a zucchini you like, and go with it. The things I would pay more attention to is the size of the plant. Some are more compact bushes than others, so space. So that's something you want to pay attention to. Winter squash, interesting little deal. I plant a lot of this. So when you winter squash we planted? What do you think?
It's not the winter.
It sounded too obvious, didn't it? That's right, it's not the winter, it's in the summer. In fact, it likes it warmer than the regular summer squash. So most people usually out there. So winter squash is kind of a funny name to give it, even though it loves hot weather. It's given that name for one reason, because it stores long. So when you harvest regular summer squash, like we had on the slide before, how long does that last when you put it on the table? Yeah, about 1 or 2 days, and it gets kind of lengthy, and yeah, I've had it, right? Winter squash, when you harvest it, there's a difference. The summer squash, they're just like the cucumbers, everything else, we're gonna pick them off when they're small, right? Yum, 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 yum. This guy, we leave all the way to maturity. So it's gonna be one of the few things we're gonna leave all the way to maturity. Okay, which means when the vine looks like it's just about had it, and it looks like the fruit's about to fall off, that's when we harvest them. But the nice thing is, once we harvest them, put them inside, they'll stay all the way through the winter now. Okay? It's kind of nice when you're selling them because, summer squash, if you don't sell them that week, it's done. Going to the hogs or going somewhere. This stuff, hey, didn't sell it this week, advertise it next week, didn't sell that week, advertise it next week, advertise it next year. That's still just as good. It's hard. A lot of different ones out there. That's butternut on the left. My favorite, I don't think I have a picture of it, is I like the spaghetti squash.
Yeah.
Anybody not on that one? Yeah. So it's like, at maturity, it kind of gets a nice yellowish, whitish color to it, and it kind of looks like a big black globe or whatever. Black globe. But it's nice. When you cut it up, it looks like a squash inside, but then you take it out with like a fork, and it just turns into what looks like spaghetti, kind of like angel hair or whatever. That's pretty good. And a lot of people actually use it as spaghetti. We cook it in all kinds of stuff. It's a good seller for us. Sweet corn. I love sweet corn.
Before you get off that issue, the squash boards, is there really anything you can do about them other than pick them out of the stem?
There's really not, like I said, we get around them by planting successions of them so that they get to one maturity. We rip them out of there. You can hit them with preventatives, and I don't think it does very good at all. So you start with the squash vine board, and like I said, here's how it works. You usually don't see them early in the season. You get squash bugs, which are different early in the season. Later in the season, the moth, and the moth, if you've ever seen it before, looks like a wasp. It's a little red stripe thing. It looks just like a wasp, but it's actually a moth. It comes in and lands on the leaves of the squash, and then eventually it jumps down to the stalk, and it stings it and drops an egg in. That one egg is going to create a larva, and he'll get up the size of a good inch, and he'll tunnel his way through your squash. Most people have no idea it's there until the squash just falls over, and they think it's gone dry, so they put more water to it, and it doesn't usually perk it up for a day or two, and eventually it just stays down. So, very difficult to control. If you can see the moth out there, usually late in the evening, you can spray it and kill it directly. That's the perfect thing. Preventive sprays, I've never had much luck. The two ways I have had luck are by planting successions of new squash every 2 weeks, and then when they attack one stage of it, which is a little bit more mature, we take it out. Or last year, and this is very labor intensive, we used row covers over it. So we use like a netting, if you will, if you kind of picture little plastic irrigation pipes acting like a little miniature hoop house. We covered it with what would look like mosquito netting. And so we had a couple of rows of it like this. And this was not at my farm because I don't have time for that. This was at a research trials. And then I had a girl working for me. She was doing a research project on it. And so every morning we did 2 different ways. She would come and lift the sides up for 2 hours and let the pollinators, which normally fly in the morning, come in. So they have to pollinate it. They go and do their thing, and she'd close the covers up for the day. Next morning, she'd come and do the same thing. We also had one bed that was a little bigger tunnel. She would walk in there and self-pollinate the squash with a Q-tip. So she went to giant plumbing for Q-tips, and she swirled around the male, call it squash sex, if you will. Swirling around the little male bloom, go to the female bloom, which is very easy to identify, swirl it around there. Every morning she would do that. So she was my little bee. Her name was Shelby. I call her Shelby. And she did it every morning. So the results, and then we have, of course, several blocks that are just sitting out. So the ones that were sitting out, obviously got nailed by squash vine boards, didn't last. The ones where we opened it up during the morning and closed it back had a few squash vine boards that made it in that morning. And they did pretty good. The ones that were, she was the actual pollinator, 100% did great. Could you do that on a big scale? No. But if I was retired and had fun, or go squash perfectly, that's the way to do it.
How fine was that netting?
It was very much like a mosquito netting. If you went to, you could probably find that netting, like you might be able to find it on the forestry supplies, like Gamblers or Ben Meadows. You might be able to find it even in like Gardens Alive catalog. It needs to be fairly transparent so the sunlight can get it. Yeah.
Now, when she did the pollinating, you had to have the net up in. Didn't she have a net up there?
No, because we actually had where she went in,
Oh,
we kept it behind her,
It's
yeah.
really,
I see.
Yeah.
It was-
We actually use PVC in this case, and we had like little frames, and so we had a zip door on there, ours was fancy. And she would unzip it, close it up, come in, do her thing, and go back again.
I see.
Right. I mean, you know, most times a squash run, a squash by a more adult, you'll see it in the afternoon flying. So, you know, you can kind of get away, lift them up in the morning, you'll still be ahead of the game. All right, sweet corn. Love to grow it. Everyone seems to be hung up on the one variety of what? Silver Plains, whatever it wants, everybody grows. That's a little bit like, I mean, it's nothing wrong with that, but it'd be like you guys going out the parking lot and driving home in a Ford Pinto. It's so old, you know. I had a Ford Pinto once. You didn't know what a Ford Pinto is, but I think that like my first one. They were sort of on blow up or something.
Yeah,
But-
that's a lot.
Yeah, exactly. Sweet corn. So there's so many great varieties out there to try. I want you to try some different ones. The triple sweets are really good. They have got, and don't let the word genetics scare you. Genetics is not, you know, some people are hung up on GMOs. So GMOs and genetics are two different things actually. Genetics are bred to have, you know, several traits. You and I are genetics. I mean, we're part of our parents and part of the grandparents. So it's you know, picking up the best. So the triple sweet varieties, double and triple sweets have multi-genes so that you can store them longer and they retain their sweetness. Silver Queen, great tasting corn. I've eaten it all my life, I guess. My father always grew acres of it. But you pull it off and eat it that day, brilliant. You stick it in the refrigerator, eat it the next day, it's pretty good. You come back 4 days later and you take that stained fresh corn of you out of the refrigerator and eat it, and what do we got? Kind of chewy, kind of grainy, starch is already converted, right? You take one of the triple sweets, right? And you harvest it, you eat it that day, absolutely delicious. You put it in the refrigerator and come back 2 weeks later and put it in boiling water, still delicious. So it's got storability. And if you're selling it, it's nice to be able to keep advertising that product a week later. But if you're eating it for yourself, and this way you don't have to cream everything all in one shot, you still got fresh. Corn in general is broken down into genetic types. Okay, so you get your sugary standards. Okay, so this is kind of where, kind of like where your Silver Queen would fall into. What do you need to know? Take away from this, the SH2 or the super sweets. You need to know this. If you grow anything that's got a super sweet to it, you can't grow any other corn variety near it. It needs to be isolated with a cross-pollinate. Everything else will be okay if you plant more than one variety. It's been a long time on corn, but here's the takeaway message. Try some different varieties. If you want to just bump up, you know, one model from a Pinto, and what's after a Pinto? I don't know. The Ford LPD or something. My mother had one of those. I used to really race that thing. Go to Silver King, which is an SE variety, which will have more sweetness and longer storage than that Silver King. You won't always find those things in Walmart or Home Depot, so just go to the catalogs I mentioned and you can order any kind of seed you want. Park seed will carry it. Okay. I grow one that's not a triple sweet as well, but I love it. It is a, God bless you. It's an SC. I grow one that's a bicolor, which means it's got the white and the yellow called ambrosia. It's a very sweet one. Yeah. Love sweet corn, my favorite thing to grow.
Squirrels love that too.
Well, squirrels and deer. Yeah, we don't, well, if we get time to talk, I have to fence mine out because the deer will get in there and tear them up. Japanese beetles, if they ever invade, they'll eat the silks on them, you know, and it kills the pollination.
So isolating corn, I understand that's a real
Okay.
challenge. Talk to me about how you would isolate.
On a practical standpoint, it's pretty difficult if you and your neighbor say, I don't know where you live, if your neighbor's like, you know, one door over, and she's growing, say, Silver Queen, and you try to grow a super sweet corn. Okay, corn is primarily pollinated by wind, currents going back and forth. It's not insect, a little bit of insect, but mainly wind. So if she's anywhere near you and the wind's blowing, pollen from her Silver Queen can come into your super sweet corn, and it's going to mess up the pollination, and you'll get corn, but it could be chewy, it could be not flavorful. Okay, that's primarily in the super sweet varieties. The other ones that I mentioned, that SU, SE, and the triple sweets, you can plant that in most cases, 2 or 3 different varieties right near each other, and they won't cross pollinate. So how would you isolate them?
Yeah.
Might be impractical unless you have a lot of room around you, like you live kind of off in the woods in a subdivision, or you, like we have 150 acres, so there's no one around too close. So
Okay.
that's not, not easy, not easy. All right, sweet potatoes. Fun to grow, a little bit of a challenge. They take a lot of room to plant them. They're a warm season crop. Most people, and I think it's easier just to buy small plants, okay, little slips, they're called. So it'd be a little sweet potato plant. The two that you're going to probably find in Georgia are Georgia Jet or Beauregard. And they're both good varieties, very improved. Okay, those are some that came out of my garden. It's kind of like an Easter egg hunt. It's a long season crop, so you're going to leave that vines up, and they'll keep going all summer long. When they start to fizzle out and die, it's time to go on your gold digging. You dig them up and harvest them. That's making it sound pretty simple. The biggest issue I have with sweet potatoes, if you're not careful, it can get real weedy in there because these things are spreading out like cucumbers, vines going everywhere. You want to try to do the best you can to weed control. Also, if you have mice around, mice love to tunnel down and chew on them. So you pull some up and you see like little pieces out of them, it's like, oh, put a mouse in there. So deer, if you're anywhere nearby, they will love to eat the foliage. And speaking of the foliage, it's kind of a funny thing, but that's been kind of one of the hot issues these days, is people eating vegetable foliage. I know when we think about collard greens and lettuce, we're eating the foliage, but you'd be amazed. We sell and people request they buy sweet potato leaves, and I assume they eat them. They buy the leaves off of broccoli, Brussels sprouts. They buy the blooms off of squash. So we're getting out there, but they want to buy them. Some people actually take the leaves off of the greens we sell. They take the Brussels sprouts greens, and they take the greens, which is the leaves off of broccoli, and make smoothies out of them. That can't be good. That does not sound good. Sure, it's good for you, but what does that got to do with tasting good stuff? All right, tomatoes. Oh my gosh, I got so much to cover so little time. I left kind of the biggie for the last year on the varieties. What do you need to know about tomatoes? Well, there's a bazillion different varieties. Each one's a little challenging. In most cases, if I'm trying to help someone pick out a variety, I need to know what is their intent. Do I want to just have one to eat every now and then with a sandwich or a hamburger? Do I want to can these things and make sauce or salsa? Or do I just want a couple for my salad? So that would help me determine what you might want. Okay. So let's just start off. If I wanted something, and my wife makes a lot of spaghetti sauce. So that means, what's the best scenario for that? Well, there's two major distinctions on tomatoes. They're either going to be a indeterminate variety, you've probably seen that name, or determinate. Okay? A determinate variety, if you want to try to remember, means there's a determined time that most of the harvest comes out. Now, that don't mean it's not going to continue to trickle out a few, but the biggest bulk of that harvest comes at one time, determined. So if I'm going to do sauce, it would make sense for me to probably grow several determinate varieties so that, I'm not having to sit there and pick one or two tomatoes all summer long to make sauce. I want to get the mother load out at one time, get those things canned and done. Okay, so I'm normally going to recommend some type of a determinate variety. If I want the fresh eating tomato, or I want to have one for a hamburger, one for a salad, this or that, then I probably want an indeterminate variety. Indeterminate is one that puts out a small bit of harvest each week and continues, hopefully for the growing season if you keep it alive. Now at home, to be honest with you, we grow all kinds of them. Indeterminates, determinates, and then you can get into one of the ones I like for sauce are the big round ones. We call them the paste tomatoes or the Romas. Most of those are determinate varieties, but they're a little thicker, a little pastier for tomato sauce. And then there's the cherry types, okay, the little ones, so great for cherry ones. Those are great for salads. They're all pretty much indeterminate. And let me tell you, if it's you and your husband, or you're alone, or you even got 4 kids, you only need about 1 or 2 of those. We plant, usually about 20 of them. I can't keep up with it. They will put out more, I call them slingshot ammunition. Sometimes I don't know what to do than you can harvest, because they're just boom, continuously, and you'll just be picking up things like grapes off the vine. So, I try one first and go from there. Okay, remember we talked about finding them neat, get the roots down. Cherry tomatoes, that's a couple of them. Super Sweet 100's been around a long time. It's bomb proof. if there's the easiest one out there to grow, it's certainly the cherry tomato, okay? It does need some caging because it's a very vine type crop, so it has to have something to grow against. But no matter what, unless you really screw up, you're gonna get a harvest off. Someone's like, I didn't get a harvest. Who said it? Okay, remember we talked about the determinant. There's just a couple to choose from. There's many others. Rutgers is an old variety, still a good one for salts. Roma, or the paste type of then the fresh and bean. If you want to grow a colossal giant, you might want to choose one like Big Beef, and for the prize tomato in the fair, and that's a whole other story, but that comes down to picking off everything but 1 or 2 blooms and really putting all the energy into that. But you would want to start out with a variety that's going to have capability. And there's just a couple others there. Not a lot.
Another hour.
Okay. Let's do this. Let's take a 2-minute break. I'm gonna cut here and go to the other PowerPoint. So 2-minute rest, don't go too far. I don't want to give you this information.
Okay.